Go Ford for your next truck or SUV and find an easier way to buy with Woodhouse Ford today and experience the convenience of buying with Woodhouse Ford. Save up to $13,000 off MSRP on a 2023 Ford F-150 XLT plus 3.9% APR for 60 months with approved credit. $299 doc fee due at signing. Security deposit waived. Expires 1/02/2024.
Woodhouse Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is bringing you more this holiday season, finishing the year with big savings on the entire model lineup during the Wrap Up the Year sales event. Save up to $13,000 off MSRP on a 2024 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Laramie 4x4 for qualified buyers. Explore all our year-end lease and finance deals at WoodhouseCDJRBellevue.com or WoodhouseChryslerJeepDodge.com. This is Woodhouse. With approved credit, tax title license extra. When financed with Chrysler Capital. $299 doc fee due at signing. Stock number BC240134. Offer expires 12/31/2023. See dealer for details.
Hi, this is Crystal Hardison from Southeastern Livingston Center. I'm the director, and you are listening to Local Leaders, the podcast.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Local Leaders, the podcast. And today I'm kind of excited. I get to talk about my other favorite subject, which is paint. As many of you know, I spent 25 years selling paint, and today I have some pretty good painters across from me that owns a pretty good company. Mr. George Vanderpool, right directly across from me. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you today?
I'm pumped up, man. I get to talk paint. I get to geek out today big time. And Mr. Wes Thomas, who is his number one sales rep, we're going to call you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Looking forward to this.
That's it. And as y'all can tell, he's got a great voice, and he's a pastor somewhere along the line. So check him out on YouTube. We'll give you a free plug on that.
Thank you.
So, George, you own Capital City Coatings. How's it? First of all, before we even get into how you started your business and how you came into owning a company that focuses on paint coatings, I want to talk about the name, because this always intrigues me with every guest I have on. One thing I know I struggled with when I started my own business was I went back and forth on a name forever. You would have thought that I was going to be out of business if I didn't pick the right name. It was major to me for whatever reason. How'd you come up with Capital City Coatings?
It took a lot of thought and effort. When I moved back and started this company, I wanted to position myself to be the premier aesthetic construction company.
And I love that name, aesthetic construction, because that's what it is.
That's a term we've branded here. It's not a term used here. It's used on the East Coast a lot, in California a lot, New York, different places. Here, just painting and sheetrock, painting and sheetrock. Right. That separates us from the rest of construction. So it's easily for people to break it down when they're looking over things and their budgets and, how much we're going to spend on aesthetics, how much we're going to spend on, other X,
that's
Y,
right.
and Z's. I wanted something, our home office is in Baton Rouge. We do have a North Shore office, but I wanted something to, pop.
Yes.
And a lot of things are like Capital City Produce, you have Capital City this, that, and they're like, none of the paint companies have latched onto this. I don't know why they haven't, because it's just right there, boom, in their face.
That's it.
So I wanted something that, stuck with the fact that we're out of Baton Rouge, and that's where we promote, most of our work.
Very
and something
good.
That was catchy,
Yeah, it is. It is catchy, and I love your logo. And one thing that stuck out.
Benjamin Connell, I'm gonna give him a shout out. He designed that logo.
There you go. Shout out, Benjamin.
TV commercials coming up. Yeah, he did an amazing job.
I love your logo.
I told him what I wanted. I want the bridge in it. I want it to be a brand, because that's what we are. We're not just a company. We're not just a fly-by-night paint company. We're a brand.
That's right.
So I want the logo to match that. And Benjamin Connell did an amazing job.
Yeah, he really did. And I always say,
first time, too, he sent me the proof and said, well, what do you think about this? I was like, holy crap, you nailed it. First try, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. So thank you, Benjamin, if you're listening.
Very good. And that takes a talent. Somebody's got to kind of crawl in your head a little bit to figure out a logo deal for you. And one thing I've always been big on with logos is you want to be able to look at someone's logo and know exactly what it is they do.
You want to separate from everybody else. When you go into a Sherwin-Williams or a Farrell Calhoun and you see the board there with all the contractors, our cars pop.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not basic, run of the mill, and just
it's not a menu.
No, not a menu. That's right. And one thing that impressed me about you just right off the bat was when we were talking in our pre-meeting, you mentioned you had a sales rep. I am someone who's a big proponent, huge proponent of sales reps and their importance in business.
Right.
I ask people.
Expansion starts at the top.
Yes.
On the top right, nothing else is ever going to fall into place.
That's right. And I ask people all the time when they call me and maybe they're wanting some advice on their business or whatever. The first thing I'll say is, "Do you have a sales rep?" "Well, no, I'm the sales rep." And I'm like, "No, you need to hire a sales rep."
It got to the point before we got to be bigger like we are now that I was having to do the work, run up and down the interstate, which anybody who lives here knows that's a whole day wasted right there. We service 7 parishes.
Just going to,
so if
like,
I'm doing a job in
O'Neill
Mandeville
Lane.
and one on Highland Road, that's my whole
Estimates.
day shot just going to do an estimate.
That's right.
So I needed someone, and thankfully I pulled him out of retirement.
Yeah, yeah.
Thought he was going to take it easy.
So let's talk to you for a second, Wes. So how long have you been involved in paint coatings?
Well, the best answer to that question, it seemed like forever, in that
He was there when they made paint for the first time.
Moses and I, no,
I love it.
He painted the
Actually-
ark.
Yeah.
kind of to give you a little background, and then even in as to why I got into painting was that I finished high school being raised by Billy Graham's older brother in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And ended up going to Bible college here in New Orleans. And since 1986, I've been involved in worldwide mission work as well as pastoring. And so
Beautiful, buddy.
as the Apostle Paul made tents on the side, this painting was kind of always one of my tents.
Yeah.
And because we were, and I can honestly say my favorite thing in pastoring was traveling third world countries, using the locals, training them to help build, that's what we did, several orphanages, churches, and Bible colleges in India and Africa. And so I just fell in love with construction because it's almost an allegory of what we were doing spiritually.
Right.
When you find out
Very good way of putting
people's lives are beat up buildings, weathered by life, and you want to bring a restoration and a renovation. So I kind of have that same sense when we're doing a project for someone where it's their physical home or house. So, since 1986, in one form or another, actually, George worked for me at one time. That's when I recognized his special skills. He just needed a few life changes, but I'll let him talk about that. And those came about, and I said, you know what? I could never represent somebody unless I knew that they had a passion for the quality of their work.
Yes.
And not only a passion, but the skill set to match it.
Yeah.
In this case, George does. And so, as he said, I've ran into so many painting companies, and I say that in quotations, that supposedly were good. But he mentioned aesthetics. I've seen plenty of the pathetics.
Hey, yeah, haven't we all?
And so we don't apologize that we're a concierge crew.
Yeah.
And we're the big issue I run into all the time is that
Concierge crew. I
it's
like that.
increasingly becoming a major issue of trust. I actually ran into a situation recently where we were called in to finish a project because the contractors that this housewife had hired, she found them opening windows in a bedroom where there wasn't going to be any painting, allegedly for fresh air. Mm-hmm. And then the concern came, were they unlocking the windows for future entrance? So who can you trust? And so
That's a great point. And it's we're on the same wavelength with that, because one of the things I was going to talk to y'all about was the importance of vetting a painting crew. Good painters when you come across them because they have sales reps. That tells me right there that's a company that cares about their product, number one. But insurances, very important.
Right.
You're insured and licensed, number one.
And here's a kicker with that is our company has every single employee working under us covered under insurance. What I find with most paint contractors in this parish and this whole area really is the head guy will have workman's comp and general liability, but nobody under him is covered.
Okay, so what does that mean? If those people underneath him are not covered,
That means
what
let's
issues
say
can arise?
Johnny's working for a company and Johnny's at your house on a ladder and he falls. Well, he's open to try to sue you. Mm-hmm. So you get peace of mind knowing that nobody's going to try to sue you for anything. If any accidents happen, which every precautions taken to make sure that
Sure.
doesn't.
I mean, accidents
I haven't had
do
an accident
happen, but
in 30 years. I'm not saying it never will.
Right.
But you're not going to get sued, by our employees or by us or anybody.
So what,
vice versa.
and to break that down, what George is basically saying here is the owner of the company may have insurance,
Right.
but the guys underneath him that he's hiring are not. So
And
you
that's
need to
99%
make
of the time
sure.
that's the case.
Yeah. So
And
you need to
not
make
just their
sure.
word, you need to make sure they show you the documented proof. We give our clients a packet when they hire us that has all of our insurance information.
Love it.
You know, all of our past people they can call for references. That's a mile long.
That's okay.
Yeah, we have
Look,
everything.
there's no such thing as too much information when
Right.
it comes to vetting
wanna know
any
who's
sort of
coming in your
contractor
home.
that you have in your
Right.
house.
You want to know who's coming in your home or business.
And on that note, you talked about sales rep, and I agree with you. But there's sales reps and they're sales reps.
Right.
And some of them are only looking to make a sale, and then they're going to farm it out to a subcontractor.
Right.
So, and what guarantees do you have then with someone who's not interested in your company? What kind of coverage do they have? And what is the quality? They're looking to cut corners. They're just subbing the job. They're just looking to make $1, where we're looking to build our brand.
That's exactly
And then they
right.
have a hard time sometimes even getting a hold of a person. Someone asked me a while back, well, what time do y'all close? And I said, we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I'm glad
Hey,
you mentioned that too, George, because sometimes I take a little issue with just being a sales rep, because I tell the customer, I said, you're going to meet me on day one, but you're going to see me throughout the project, and most importantly on the last day when it's only with your final approval that we will get our final payment. I want them to know you can always get in touch with me to solve a problem before it becomes a bigger problem.
Right. Very important.
Communication is so key because here we live in a place where, because of all the hurricanes and storms and damage that happens, everybody and their grandma's a contractor. I've heard so many stories about, these people, we give this person $2,500, we never saw him again.
I used to tell people all the time they'd throw a ladder in the back of their truck and call themselves a painter.
If some contractor's asking you for money up front, that means he's not really a legitimate company. If he doesn't already have the money in the bank to back that project, then he's not a legitimate business. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Someone's asking you money up front, that's a dead giveaway that something's
So
up.
there's your tip number one, folks. Or actually number two. Number one is make sure they're insured. Make sure their guys are covered under that insurance.
Every
And
employee coming to their house. Make
yes.
sure.
Who's going to do the work, not just who sold you the job.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And so let's take you back a little bit, George. We're going to go back in time.
Right.
I need music for that. Like the old Wayne's World thing.
Right.
So let's go back a little bit. We're going to go back to when you first founded this company. You founded this company in 2016, but it's very important to note that you started painting way before that.
I started in
You were
1995.
mastering your craft.
Correct.
And at some point, you figured out, I want to be the business owner. I want to be the one that not only takes all the responsibility, but, reaps the benefit of that,
When I
right?
started figuring out that I was better than the people I was working for,
Yeah.
then I was like, all right, it's time.
Yeah. You're making somebody else all the money at
Right.
that point.
And that's where I got to the point. In 2016, I went through somewhat of a traumatic experience. My wife passed away at the age of 33.
Sorry.
I was living on the East Coast painting ships, of all things. It was an experience. Wasn't necessarily in love with the job, but, anything to do with painting, I'm always open to. And I had a decision to make, sink or swim. You're going to go on, or you're just going to stop living life, or, what you're going to do. And, of course, there was a time for grieving and, getting all that out of my system. And then I got focused and determined. And I said, I'm tired of making other people a lot of money, off of my talent. And, I said, I'm going to go back home. And I realized that I learned stuff over there with their marketing that there's nobody here that's the, premier paint company.
Right.
Like Roto-Rooter, that's a premier plumber. That's a name synonymous with anything. So many years of advertisement, puts that into people's heads. Just like McDonald's, hamburgers. They may not be the best hamburgers, but you know them because of the
Branding is look, and let's not get off that point because I want to bring that up. Branding is a huge, important part of any business, and I'll use something right directly related to the paint business as an example. Almost daily, people would come in the paint store that I worked at, and they would say, "I need something that kills my walls." And what they're really wanting to say is, "I need an oil-based primer to put on my walls." But Kills did such a good job of branding that people called it kiltzing their walls.
Right.
Could you imagine if they said, "I need a Capital City Coatings paint job"? That was how people, think about that though. That is invaluable. And nobody realized that Kills
even
was not a
sheetrock
type of paint.
itself.
It was a brand of paint.
just like sheetrock's a brand of drywall.
Yes.
Sheetrock's not actually called sheetrock.
That's right. That's right. But there's a sheetrock company.
We still call them Xerox machines.
Yes.
It's a brand name.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
only paper, but it's Kleenex.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's been a lot of examples where branding has really made something a household name, and obviously with Capital City Coatings, you know, just from the logo standpoint, as we just talked about, that's a form of branding. But you also brand the professionalism of your company.
And we're not just a painting company. We are a brand in every sense of the word.
That's exactly right. And so that brings me to my next point, and that is when you're a brand, you have to be very cognizant of everybody that works for you is a part of that brand. They're representing that brand.
Exactly.
And so one thing that struck me with you when we talked was your importance that you placed on professionalism of your crew. Right. Tell us about that.
We just take every precaution to make sure everybody's performing at their, you know, maximum potential, that they're aware of everything around them, their environment. You know, people have $10,000 rugs in their house. You know, they have artwork hanging on the wall that's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
Family heirlooms that's been passed down from generation to generation. I tell a lot of these young guys when they start working, if you're just looking at this as to slap paint on the wall for a paycheck, then you don't need to be in this business.
Yes.
We're creating environments that love's going to be shared in. You know, families are going to gather in this living room. They're going to have Thanksgiving dinner at this kitchen table, or dining room table rather.
Right.
You know, they're going to be making memories in here.
You make me cry.
Let's not let them see. Let's not let them see street marks when they're enjoying these memories. You know, or brush strokes.
Well, that's right. And I'm gonna turn to you for a second, Wes. Yeah. And you know, you and I are a little bit more old school in that we remember a time when trades were trades.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you know, when you were an electrician, you were a master electrician, or you were an apprentice. Right. When you were a painter, you were a master painter, or you were an apprentice. Those were jobs, and they were lifelong jobs that you took a lot of pride in, and those sorts of things. And I think the rush to education, which is an important part of life, and look, there are people out there that are definitely college material, and there's someone, maybe they want to be a heart surgeon. Yeah, you need to go to like college and get a degree, and I don't want anybody working on my heart that don't have that. But the problem is everybody raises their kids for that level, and they don't put enough focus on painting as a trade. Let me tell you something right now. I spent a long time in that business. You can make a lot of money.
Great money. In
it is something where you are a business owner, and I have a soapbox, and the only soapbox I ever get on is when it comes to people not encouraging trades anymore. Right. I think that's created a major shortage of quality painters.
Exactly. Right. You got these people out here that would, you know, English degrees and various degrees who are working at Office Depot or places.
Yes.
I mean, it's like barely getting by. It's like, so what was the point of you going to college?
Right.
I always explain this to people, you know, teach your kids how to hustle. So they know how to hustle, they're going to bring in money.
Go Ford for your next truck or SUV and find an easier way to buy with Woodhouse Ford today, and experience the convenience of buying with Woodhouse Ford. Save up to $13,000 off MSRP on a 2023 Ford F-150 XLT, plus 3.9% APR for 60 months with approved credit. $299 doc fee due at signing. Security deposit waived. Expires 1/02/2024.
The South Dakota Stories, Volume 5. She used to dread the winter, the cold, driving in the snow. But that was before she started spending it in the right place. Now, wandering the snow puts a smile on her face, and breathing in the landscapes warms her spirit more than any coat. Because if South Dakota taught her anything, it's that it's never too cold to have too much fun. There's so much South Dakota, so little time.
Key word right there. That's right. You couldn't say it any better. And I preach it all the time on this show that there is a lot of pride that can be taken in being not only a business owner, but a business owner of a trade like painting, where not only can you employ people, you can improve the economy, but you can make a good bit of money doing it, you know, and rightfully so.
I've worked for $1 million paint companies before. That grossed $1 million a year, so it's there.
It's there. It's there. So
you shared a good point.
BJ Pawn and Gun in Denham Springs wants to buy your unwanted gold jewelry, gold coins, and gold bullion. With 30 years of experience operating in the Livingston Parish area, BJ Pawn wants to be your source when selling your gold. So stop by BJ Pawn today for a no-obligation offer. BJ Pawn, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast.
I remember my father-in-law was a painter, and I was so impressed with how he took such pride in that. Again, old school.
Yeah.
And he would talk about the best way to clean your brushes. And I mean, he treated those brushes like they were his surgical tools personally.
And they are.
And how you take care of your equipment. But the pride in the job, it's versus just what's a good money-making business, is to me the separator. As I say with George, I saw not only did he have the skills, but he had a passion for this. I mean, how many people are you going to hire that's going to have someone with his skills and yet be part of the ownership?
Right.
That's going to show up in your
100%.
house, in your multi-million-dollar house that you need to trust to. And then to make sure you have a project supervisor that's been a pastor and missionary for several decades. I mean, people are concerned about that today. You know, I would say communication, as I've found through the years, is the missing element in good contractors and bad.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I preach all the time is that there's nothing more important than that first meeting with your client. And that is to make sure that you have discussed everything possible with them. I've always said that it should be the contractor asking the questions, not the client. Mm-hmm. What do you want with this? Let them see that you understand their vision, their dream, and it's not just another job. Okay, I'll paint your house. And so we spell out things in our very detailed proposal. We're not only going to do this, this is how we're going to do it. This is how long we anticipate it to take. Little things, are you ready for this? Privacy concerns. Mm-hmm. How many times I've seen in other crews, we don't allow it. Yeah. They'll say, ma'am, do you mind if I use your restroom?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You have just put that person in a very difficult position because either answer is not good. Yes means I don't know what's going to happen in my bathroom. No means I'm some kind of cruel person that's not going to allow you to do what you need to do.
Right.
We just spell that out front. We're going to take care of your bushes. We're going to cover with tarps. We're going to make sure that if neighbors are too close, that they move their cars. We want to meet all your neighbors. Apartment house we just did, I want to meet everybody and let them know who we are, what we're doing. So if there's any problems, we can take care of them before they become bigger.
Yeah, and look, I want to drill down on that point a little bit, and I'll give people a real world example of how important that is. I had a guy that I was selling paint to at one point, and he's a good guy, but he was just getting started out in the paint business, and he needed a little bit of guidance, to say the least. And one of the issues he was having a lot was, and I felt like it was customers taking advantage of his lack of knowledge, but there would always be miscommunications.
Right.
For example, customer wants one coat. He puts one coat on the wall, and they say, no, that was for two coats. I was paying you for two coats. Exactly. So my first question to him was, you got it in writing, right? And he's like, no, I didn't have him sign anything. And I'm like, are you crazy? Look, putting things in writing has nothing to do with trust. It has everything to do with everybody being on the same page, because sometimes it's just honest misunderstanding.
Right.
I didn't know, the customer can say, I assumed you were going to prime it. And the painter could be, no, that didn't include primer, or whatever.
Walter Matthau in the Bad News Bears said it best: when you assume, you make an ass out of you.
That's right. Never assume. Never, ever, ever. But especially in the paint business, it is something where what you just said is a huge feather in your cap and a huge reason to do business with you, and that is you've already figured it out. No one had to tell you. You want to make sure that the customer is covered by making sure that miscommunication is not there. Everything is spelled out. It's on a piece of paper, and here's how many coats we're going to do. Here's how long roughly it's going to take. Sometimes it could take longer, things happen.
Various things.
But weather. Estimated weather, the one thing we can't control, right? So that is the sign of a professional company, period. Now, I want to talk real quick to you, George, about the services that you offer, because that's an important aspect of, not every paint company is equal in what they're willing to do or not willing to do. Some of them don't want to fool with certain things. They just, that's not their forte.
But they do too many that's unrelated to the trade.
Yes.
See, I do painting, landscaping, marriage counseling.
Minor surgery.
We were just looking at a business card from a
marriage counseling, and I love it.
the business card
Light
was so
surgery.
Busy. Yeah. We'll take out your gallbladder. We're not going to do any open heart surgery, or anything like that.
Well, and that's a key to business, is really knowing what you're good at and sticking to it. I know a guy that cuts grass. That's all he does is cut grass. And people tell him all the time, will you do my flower beds? And he's like, no, I cut grass. We go get you I know guys that I can refer that do flower beds, but that ain't me.
Right. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Some people are just chasing dollars.
Right. So we offer all forms of painting, interior, exterior, commercial, residential, except for industrial.
Yeah.
No plans on getting into that.
Yeah.
We also offer specialty painting, faux finishing, staining, veining, marbleizing. That's I could take your kitchen countertop and make it look like it was made out of marble with paint.
Yep.
And a good sealer, of course.
Yeah.
Pressure washing, which is something I cannot stress enough in South Louisiana with the mold, the mildew, everything we're always fighting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit.
If you own a house or you own a business, have it pressure washed at least once a year. At least by someone insured.
Yep. Yeah,
So
there you go.
sued.
And you do the pressure
Right,
washing.
Yes, we do. We're very, people call us all the time. And I said, do y'all do pressure washing? Of course we do. But it's people neglect that, and then it saves you money in the long run, because if you don't keep the house clean over time, the wood's going to rot faster. Mold and mildew is going to be harder to cover. It's going to cost you more in material. It's going to cost you more in time, labor. So just once or twice a year, having your entire house or business pressure washed, even to the concrete.
Look, it's preventive maintenance
is everything.
Is
yes,
everything,
longevity.
and especially here, we're going to talk about two particular instances that are big problems in Louisiana. And first thing we're going to talk about is doors. Okay, so doors. Let's talk about doors. So Louisiana, one of the biggest complaints I used to look at was people would call me and they would say, do you have any painters that can redo my front door? I stained it and varnished it, and it's looking pretty rough. And I go out there and look at it, and never fails. The top half is beautiful. The bottom half looks like a Twisted Sister or something. I mean, it's just it's destroyed, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is the sun rises, sets, drops, and most of the day it's sitting on the bottom half of that door because you have a lip over the top of it that's shading it where it's not hitting the top. So it's just gotten degraded by the sun over time. Now, how can that be avoided? Well, from a homeowner's perspective, one thing that you need to do every year is pick springtime. Every late March, go out there and put a fresh coat of varnish on it. It's not that difficult. It would
Some
take
people's
you.
awnings, I've noticed that too. If they would just put a bigger awning that actually covered the whole door, from the sun hitting it, would be a drastic help.
Yeah.
And then certain doors, and this is a big problem, especially with a lot of buildings off of Blue Bonnet going towards, St. Gabriel and that whole area, is exotic woods like Spanish cedar. A lot of these builders and contractors are getting these things, and they're not letting the wood dry out enough before they sell them. I'm not sure if that falls on the builder, the distributor, or whoever, but it's somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Exotic woods aren't meant to be painted.
Right.
They're meant to be stained only.
And that's because they hold an insane amount of moisture.
A insane amount of oil, and it's going to bubble
In
every
oil.
time. I cannot tell you how many jobs in University Club, for example, subdivision. That whole subdivision, the windows and doors are Spanish cedar. Just about.
I know.
So everything you
looked at
paint
many.
out there is going to bubble. I mean, it's just...
It's just not a paint grade door.
No, it's not. It's stain and stain only.
Yeah. And so that was a big problem, folks, back 2005, 2006. Oh my gosh, we were looking at those.
So people,
all the time.
before y'all build a new construction house, talk with the builder, find out what doors and windows are being installed, find out, do some research. Just don't take the builder's word for it.
That's right.
Make sure you know what you're doing, because it's irreversible at that point. You're either going to have the door remilled or pay for a whole brand new door, which some of these doors, $2,000 or $3,000.
Even more, for some of them. And which brings me back to my point. It wouldn't help necessarily a Spanish cedar situation, but if you just do a little bit of preventive maintenance on your home, it can go a long way in extending the life of your paint job. So pressure washing it once a year, almost a must. Putting a fresh coat of varnish on it once a year. Good idea. Trust me.
And that saves so much time and money in the long run. Like
tons.
It's insane. Especially for busy people. The husband and wife both work. They got multiple kids and soccer and everything else. Everybody's so busy these days, especially people with little kids.
Yes.
Every little thing you can do to save time and money down the road is only going to be beneficial.
And you heard that from someone that owns a paint company, and there's nothing better than getting these jobs. But
every day.
He doesn't. Yeah, exactly. He wants to help you save a little money too. And
exactly, because I'm not just there to get a paycheck.
Right.
I want your home to look as good as you want it to.
That's right. That's right. And look, when you're running a successful paint company and you're putting your name out there and you're doing everything the right way, such as y'all are doing, the aspect from the homeowner's perspective of what they're getting jumps through the roof. You mentioned it earlier, and that is there's a lot of, not everyone, but there's a lot of paint companies out there that are kind of fly by night.
I would
maybe
say where we are, we're a good 90%.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. I would agree with that.
A lot of the people that you see advertising, they used to work for me. I fired them.
Yeah. Yeah.
For various reasons.
There you go.
I joke around, and it's not cocky. It's convinced. I said, they're only my competition because they're not good enough to work for me.
Right.
Because they don't, put in the effort for details.
Yeah. Detail's a huge thing to you, isn't it?
Life is all about the details.
Yeah, I like that.
Details and misconceptions,
Yeah.
For example, Easy Lover is not a Phil Collins song. It's a Philip Bailey song, but most people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't even know who they are.
Easy Lover. That's a great song, by the way.
I was listening to it on the way here.
That's a great song. And I'm going to give you some scenarios, and you tell me we're going to play Do It or Don't Do It. So it's holiday time, right? Mm-hmm. And the holidays, what are people doing? They're going up in their attics and they're grabbing their trees and they're grabbing all their decorations. And oops, my foot just went through the ceiling.
Yeah, that happens every year at least 20 times.
And
I get calls on it to tell them what the overall number is.
I'm sure. I've fortunately never done that yet, knock on wood. But so that's called a step through is a good way of putting that. Do y'all work on step throughs? Would you patch those ceilings?
In fact, if you need something out of your attic, just call me directly. Because it'd be easier for me to just come get whatever you need out of your attic than to go in and patch them after you fall.
And then if there's a step through, it's on us.
Yeah,
that's it.
We need to come up with some like $5 service fee for grabbing something out of the attic.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Now, how about let me ask you, wallpaper? Do you hang wallpaper?
No, we don't.
No, so don't call them for wallpaper. Is what I was getting at. Now they will paint over. Will you paint over wallpaper?
Yes, we actually have one of the best systems ever to cover wallpaper. You know, a lot of times in these old houses, if they put wallpaper on back when people actually took pride in their work in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, that wallpaper is going to survive the apocalypse. You're not going to get that off. You'd be easier taking the entire wall off and re-sheetrocking the wall as opposed to taking that wallpaper. Yes. 90s and above, you sit there and work with it, and it'll eventually all come off because it's half put up anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a system to cover wallpaper to make it look exactly like a sheetrock wall, never bleed through, never show through. It's a proven method.
Very
Been
good.
doing it for a decade now and not one complaint.
Do you work with the issue that we just discussed, which is stained doors? If it's a situation where the bottom half is, so you do that. So if you go out there and look at your door right now.
Last week, a door we had so many troubles. The door was separating.
Yeah,
it was a pressed door. It wasn't actually like the old school way.
This was a nightmare. Doors. And just to show you our commitment to quality, we're talking about someone out of town.
Yeah,
and for a very minimal price, we just did the doors. It originally stained. They wanted to paint. We went through all the problems that might create, but they decided to go ahead. 4 trips back to work on issues, which we found out eventually when I finally sanded it personally down to the bare wood, that the door had never been put together with the mahogany slats with any adhesive. Some new system that someone had come up with, I'll leave it at that they would press it together with heat. And apparently it worked for, again, about 8 years in this case as well, only to eventually separate because of the incredible heat variations we have down here. So again, that's something we do all the time, and it's something that requires a little more expertise than just throwing paint on a door.
Yeah.
The lady said I was shocked that y'all came back.
Yeah.
That's how many times other contractors
much
have
less
taken
4
advantage
times.
of her.
Right. That's yeah. And so, stew on that, folks. I mean, you're in a situation with some lack of professionalism in painting when someone's shocked that you came back.
When
We
you
want to
hire a
get to the
brand, you
point
get
where people
more.
aren't shocked
Right.
when people come back. So you're going to
the
show
people
back
here
up.
get so they're so much taken advantage of by all these random fly-by-night contractors. These people are coming out of state every time we have a hurricane.
Oh yeah,
I mean, my gosh, just look at the horror stories. They're all over the place.
all over the place. Sandra Richard has been in the business of selling homes for over 20 years. This award-winning realtor brings the perfect blend of professionalism, integrity, and client satisfaction to every buying and selling transaction. A passion for both her clients and her community makes Sandra the perfect choice when buying or selling your home. So if you're in need, call the Cajun Lady, Sandra Richard, at 225-955-5484 or visit her on the web at sandrasellshouses.com. Sandra Richard, a proud sponsor of Local Leaders, the podcast. Now, let me ask you about murals. Do you do murals?
We do not.
Do not. Okay.
Eventually, we will grow to that and adding stucco as well.
Yeah.
We were even planning on having an interior designer on staff. Like I said, we're going to cover every avenue of aesthetic construction.
One-stop shop.
Right.
Basically.
Exactly.
Okay, very good, and very important. It's interesting with coatings and paint in general. Just the color changes over the years. You have to kind of educate yourself in all aspects because paint trends change
all the time,
constantly. Man, I remember trends where
the red
it
accent
was,
wall.
Yes,
everybody
yeah.
and their grandma. Had a
Oh
red accent
yeah,
wall.
yeah, in the kitchen, which is incidentally red is a color that sparks your appetite, and that's why people were doing that famously in their kitchens for so long.
And
Restaurants
most people
still do it.
Most people didn't know this because to get the color depth on a red or to cover it up, you have to prime it gray first.
That's correct.
Gray, then
That's
red.
correct. That's right. Otherwise, you're putting 90 coats, and you'll
Right.
never really achieve
You'll go to
the
some
depth.
houses and you'll still be able to see the white wall showing through because they didn't prime it with gray
And we
paint
don't
first.
hesitate making recommendations color-wise because I've done a lot of study myself on the psychological impact of certain colors, and so that you can actually give some input. And again, it shows that there's interest. You're not just there to pick up a check for painting a house.
Right. And color theory is something that is really a separator in paint coatings. When you can understand color theory, and
Right.
they actually have wheels, and those wheels spin around. I used to teach a class to architects on color theory.
Right.
And
Because it affects the mood. It sets the whole tempo.
100%.
Harvard did a study. What was it? Orange? It was like the worst paint to color
Yeah.
interior because it's psychologically proven to affect the mood.
Red increases the appetite. Blue
go paint
decreases.
prison walls orange and see what happens.
There'll be another Angola podcast.
That's right, exactly.
what'll happen.
But paint them pink, and they all love each other. It's crazy. But you hit the nail on the head, and that is there's a lot more. What the point I'm trying to drive home to people here is there's a lot more to painting than just slapping paint coatings on a wall. You just mentioned it. That's a great tip with red paints. Yellow would be another example of a hard to cover paint.
Canary yellows.
Yeah. Oh, they're horrible.
Tweety bird yellow.
Yes, but the reason is these start out in a clear base. It doesn't have any titanium in it. Titanium is what makes paint cover. The problem is titanium naturally is white. So if you have a color that requires depth like yellow or red, you can't put any titanium in it because of that reason. It will actually never achieve the depth. So when you open those paint cans to go tint them, you can see right through them, all the way to the bottom. It's just a clear base.
What's the difference when you take one color, like agreeable gray is probably the most popular
Yeah.
paint color of the last 2 or
Super
3
copy.
years. I can't tell you how many houses I've done gray and white.
Yep.
I feel like I'm in an old 50s TV show and I'm in Ozzie and Harriet because of the
Ozzie
gray and
and
white
Harriet,
walls.
love it.
So anyway, you would take that same color in one house and lighting plays a part too, but the color just won't look as in depth. And there's many reasons that could be the case. But color depth is definitely something you're going to want for your house because it makes the longevity of the paint job last longer. The sheen, whether you pick semi-gloss, satin, eggshell, whatever, the sheen's going to last longer.
And it's
sheen
also
does wear off, and a lot of people don't know that.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And also with those deeper colors like that, they're not as touch-up friendly.
Not at all.
And from a business owner's perspective, from a paint coatings owner's perspective, one thing you have to be cognizant of is that because it may require more coats to get the coverage out of a deep red or LSU purple, LSU gold. LSU gold was horrible. Trust me, I painted one of my rooms LSU gold, and look, I got the paint for free, and I was still like, oh, this sucks. It was like 7 coats, and that was with putting a tinted primer underneath it.
I've done LSU fan rooms that were purple walls with gold crown molding.
Yes.
Talk about a razor sharp line. Like if that line even deviates for a tiny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, mine was the opposite. I had the purple molding with the gold walls. But yeah, I went through a lot of tape, so I know what you mean. But blue tape was my friend all over the place. So
we don't ever, unless it's to hold something in place, we don't ever use blue tape.
That means you're talented.
Somebody knows how to use a brush or not.
Yeah,
there's a lot of pride in that.
For instance, I worked in Dallas, Texas for a while, and everybody used blue tape. So I'm in there, freehand cutting.
Oh, you wouldn't believe the amount we sold of blue tape.
The contractor's like, "You're not going to tape that up," and I was like, "Why would I tape this up?" And he's like, "All my other guys tape it up." I'm like, "Well, teach your guys how to paint."
That's good.
You're going to walk in and tell Michelangelo, how to paint the Sistine Chapel?
Look, that's I love
Sistine, not 16, like most people think.
That's correct.
There was no 1 to 15 beforehand.
Yep. So, in a sign of a good painter, they call that cutting in a straight line. Right. And when you can cut in a straight line without tape, you're legit. That's my boss opinion. And you save money.
Right. My first boss that taught me how to paint, he would cut an S or draw an S in the morning, and I would have to cut it in.
Come on.
He said, when you can cut this S in picture perfect without going outside the lines, then I'll let you play around on walls.
Wow.
It taught me right off the bat how to use the brush, because most people don't know how to use a paintbrush.
Yeah.
They don't realize you're only actually using like the last 5, 6, sections of bristles on it.
Jim, that's a great point that we're talking about, because we could spend hours talking about the different techniques and what works to make a job look different than someone else's. Yeah. Oftentimes, all the customer's going to know is when you look at this, which we encourage people to do on our website, look at our finished product and ask yourself, what is it that makes this look different than just the paint job I saw in my neighbor's house?
Yeah.
Because, again, the techniques are all there, but there's a reason why it looks different. There's a reason why that one pops, it stands out, and the others don't.
Yeah, very good. Very.
The whole point is for something, and I teach these young guys that come out of high school that work for us sometimes here and there, is that you want this to look factory made. Yeah. You don't want to see brush marks. You don't want to see roller marks. You want them to see this and be like, "How did you do that?"
Well, you
don't never tell them, because that's the secret recipe.
That's right. Yeah.
But still,
I remember when I first met George, and I saw the talent and the potential that he had. And I remember teaching him how to spray.
Right.
And, how to spray from and I see people to this day.
I was just wasting paint.
Multiple
everywhere but on the wall.
Multiple years of experience. And I've watched them, and they're still not painting right. Whereas, and I know this is not able to be visual, but the wrist has to stay parallel with the wall. Or otherwise, when you're fanning left and right, it goes from 90 degrees out to at least 45, and the paint coverage is going to be different in every degree.
Yeah.
But if you keep your wrist square to the wall, you're putting an even coat, and it's going to have a different look.
That's right.
I see so many guys here spray like that, just...
Oh, they're spraying it.
Like
they're
fanning something or whatever. You're like, what do you do?
They got those swivels on the end of their...
That boils down to the whole thing that we don't really have apprenticeships here. There's no unions here. And it's not a legitimate trade here, per se.
That's right. Generational painters are important. And if it was someone who learned from their daddy, who learned from his daddy, they're probably doing it the right way.
Right.
But... sadly, it's a dying trade in a lot of ways. And we kind of talked about that earlier.
Because there's not a lot of guys that even know about it, per se. I mean, they know about painting, but they don't know about the legitimacy of being a painting company or working for a paint company.
That's exactly right.
So, it really is a dying breed, because, it's just not out there.
Well, what the good thing, too, from a business perspective is about paint is that paint is something that you either love or you hate. There's no in between. How many times you hear homeowners say, well, I painted my house 5 years ago and I swore I was never going to do that again.
Right.
You know,
the problem is when I started doing this as a teenager, I hated it too.
Yeah.
And before I fell in love with it. But then you know what? You got to compartmentalize in your mind certain sections. You know, I always have a great work playlist going. I always have the music flowing into me.
Podcast, local leaders, a podcast going through them headphones, hopefully.
Yeah, podcast or something to keep my mind focused and, you know, on what I'm doing.
And let me tell you, I'm the same way. Painting to me is therapy.
Right, it is.
That for me is what, and I just piddle at home, you know. But if I have a piece of furniture and I want to turn it into a beautiful piece of artwork again, man, I can't wait to get home and cut a primer on there and sand the varnish off, whatever I'm doing.
Right.
It's just, to me, that is my way of decompressing. Right. Some people golf, I paint.
Right, yeah.
You know, when we're trying to train young painters to be potentially a member of our concierge crew, one of the things that I always look for is when they've done a wall, done a job, and I'll come around and I'll say, if genuinely it is the fact, that looks great because look at this, how you did that, how you didn't do this. And I want to see their response because if they don't seem to.
As the chief buffet officer here at Pizza Ranch, I get all kinds of questions from guests. Here's one from Emma.
So, what's your favorite number?
That's easy, Emma. My favorite number is 14,839,552. With Buffet Your Way, you can order any pizza you want and we'll bake it and make sure you get the first slice. And with all our crusts, sauces, and toppings, we can make you 14,839,552 different pizzas. Just not, all at the same time.
Pizza Ranch, everyone's favorite buffet.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Buy into that. Then I realize there's probably no potential here. In other words, I don't want to come around the corner, again, as I've seen done, and say, hey, I'm glad you got that done quick. Or I'm glad you cut corners. I'm glad you were able to add water to us so we didn't have to buy any more. I don't want that. I want them to see value in the job finished professionally, and I want to encourage them with that. I've always said to parents, back to my pastoring role, don't just compliment your children on how beautiful their eyes are and their hair. They had nothing to do with that. Compliment moral character. That was very kind of you. That was very generous of you. Because that's something that they can improve on, not their looks.
Oh, very good point. Very good point.
Because if they're not good in the heart, it's just, congratulations about your face.
Yes. That's right.
A lot of these young guys, and what helps me to decide who I'm going to bring on the real top-notch crews is, if they have any sort of artistic background. I'll ask them, hey, did you draw or paint in school? And they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, bring me some of your work. I want to see it. I can look at certain things and tell if you're going to be able to cut crown molding eventually. It's just there. Right. You either have it or you don't. For this. It's not, something that can necessarily be taught.
Well, it sounds to me like you got standards.
Right.
And that's a rarity.
I mean, if you don't wake up in the morning, with the goal of being the best in the world at what you do, then why are you doing it?
Yeah.
I tell people, friends of mine that are competitors technically, I tell them all the time, hey, I got 10 grand if you want to get on the other side of this house and let's see who gets to the other side first and who looks better.
Yeah.
Hey, why not? Friendly competition.
That's it. I love it.
Better.
Well, and I think in some ways that's what, not to get off on what society lacks, but I like what you said, and that is you used a big term, and that's goals. Yeah. Goals. Right. You always got to have goals to improve.
Jim, let me say something that George won't, and that is that you have too many contractors today that are desperate and dollar driven. I'll just say this. George doesn't need the money.
Yeah.
He does this for a different reason.
Yeah.
And that's something that separates a lot of contractors. If you're just in it for the money, how quick you can get the job done and where you can cut the corners, that's the kind of job you're going to get. In this case, we're more concerned about our brand, about our reputation, about you calling us back and telling neighbors to do the same.
I love it. I can't even add anything to that.
My trade saved my life.
Wes, you hit the nail on the head, buddy.
My trade saved my life so many times. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was a troubled teenager. I made stupid mistakes.
We all did.
Painting got me away from that. Painting got me into a trade, which I mastered and became a business and gave me a goal in life. When I lost my wife in 2016, painting gave me something to live for. It gave me something to focus on. This company was my baby. I can't just abort ship and lose my mind now. I got to stay focused. There's other people that are depending on me.
Yes.
There's people that are depending on me don't even know they're depending on me yet.
Ooh, I love that.
Love
that,
because,
man.
We want to
One of them's about to be born.
Yeah, one of them's about to be born any minute now. My grandbaby's actually being born while we're doing this.
Right.
Yes.
Talk about priorities. Huh?
Love that.
And I'm going to go get her purdy brush. Just
there you go.
Thing to put her in. My daughter can actually paint, surprisingly. She can actually cut crown molding and better than a lot of guys that's worked for.
Well, it's in her blood. I would expect she could, and hopefully to the same standards you have.
An interesting story, too, is I never actually met my biological father, but I found out years later that him and my grandfather were a painter.
Come on.
Yeah, dead serious.
Wow.
So
it is in your blood.
I had no choice.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice.
Right.
That's right. That's right. It is in your blood. That's very good. William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance in Denham Springs can service all of your insurance needs. Offering auto, life, health, and commercial insurance, William Waldrop of TWFG Insurance is a proud supporter of Local Leaders, the podcast. Now, let's talk about the process, okay? So there might be somebody on here right now, and they're like, man, I need to get my house painted, and I want them dudes painting it. Right. So take me through the process. They contact you. You mentioned you had a packet that you go over, all these things. Right. Kind of take me through the process of somebody if they want to reach out to you.
All they've got to do is call us. Again, Capital City Coatings, and I can repeat the phone number. It's 504-296-8277. That number again is 504-296-8277. Just ask for Wes, and we'll give you our best.
George's number is 225-831-0656. We have a website being developed. It is a top-of-the-line website, so we're taking our time with it to cover every angle. But until then, all of our work and references are on our Facebook business page. They can check out all the work.
You got some great pictures on there of your work. Yeah. I've
we try to put all
toured
the best
it around
stuff, the houses that I really enjoy.
So one phone call, and the estimate is free, and I'll personally come out and take a look at your job.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the best recommendation of who and what you should do. And we'll be able to give you a very detailed written proposal as to what we propose to do and what it will cost.
Yes, and, no cost to, get a quote, in other words.
None whatsoever.
Give them a call. They can set something up. They'll come to your house. They're not going to charge you anything to give you a quote and
you can
tell
select
you what
the paint colors, everything you need on site.
A lot of times I find that, customers need to think about this, that if a contractor is giving you too low of a price, there's a reason behind that. Mm-hmm. You can go get a cheeseburger at McDonald's right now, or you can go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. You're going to pay a little more for the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse cheeseburger, but it's going to be a whole lot better than the McDonald's.
Yeah, it's going to tell you. That's right.
We just ran across a customer that actually found their contractor when the client specified, I want to use a certain brand paint.
Yeah.
High end.
Yeah.
Only to find out that was the kind of cans they had. Mm-hmm. But they were using a cheaper quality paint and dumping the paint into the cans they expected to
cut buckets.
Exactly.
I've seen that so many times when I was coming up here. So many contractors. I got friends of mine that are contractors that have done that. I'm not going to mention any names, but still.
Yeah, that's so bad.
We don't cut corners. There's no reason to ever add water to the paint. There's no reason to ever, cut corners on a project.
Yeah, and just a little hint for the homeowner, if you ever want to make sure that they're using the paint you specified, ask them to see the receipt.
Yeah,
exactly. We
Any
do that
point
all
in
the
the
time.
job you want to ask us for receipts.
If they say, "Oh, I don't show receipts," well, that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's
that's a good red
People
flag.
that don't have nothing to hide have no reason to not show you anything you're asking for.
100%.
That's a dead giveaway right there.
So let's talk about your service area. That's important because we have a listening area throughout Louisiana, but you serve 7 parishes?
We serve 7 parishes. We also, a lot of people don't know this, that's another thing that separates us from our competition is we also travel. If you own a condo in Destin, Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida, Perdido Key, I go to Houston, Dallas sometimes. I'll fly to Tokyo, Japan to paint your house if the money's right. Because you guys,
I'll go with you.
Yeah, come on. We'll do a podcast from there.
Live from Tokyo.
But a lot of these people, own condos and property in other states, and they don't know anybody there. They don't know who they're trusting. They don't know who they're getting to come into their home. Are they going to rob us blind? Are they going to be doing drugs in our house? I mean, God, anything could happen,
Yes.
So a lot of times, clients will say, hey, we just bought a condo. Can you go paint this for us? Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
Definitely take care of it.
So they'll just reach out to them and they'll be able to guide you in the direction of what they're willing to do on that. Now, I want to read your leadership statement and then I'll tell you why after I read it. But it struck me in something that I'm a very similar thinker of. Okay. I ask everybody for a leadership statement, something that kind of their definition of a leader, you could say, and you said a leader is someone who takes charge, assumes responsibility, and not blaming others. 100% agree with that. And I'll tell you, I'm a big proponent of extreme ownership and taking ownership. Right. When you own a company or anything similar to that, you need to take the final ownership of why something's not working out. For example, I hire an employee, that employee does a bad job. At the end of the day, it's me that hired the employee, right? So the blame, the onus really falls on me in the end.
The buck stops there.
The buck stops there. And too many people these days, it's everybody else's fault.
Everybody else's fault.
And so you hit the nail on the head. That is the true sign of a leader, is someone who realizes at the end of the day it falls on me, and I'm willing to shoulder it.
If I didn't meet that customer's, if I didn't exceed their standards, I'm not happy with just meeting their standards. I want these people to be blown away. I want them to tell their friends about me. I want them to do everything to promote my brand.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize this. You could save so much money in advertising just by doing a good job. Nothing's as good as word of mouth.
100%.
Because you're going to get that person, you're going to get their friends.
George.
You're going to get their family. If that couple gets divorced, you're going to go 2 ways and get all them and all them. I mean,
and it's the best form of advertising. Word of mouth beats everything. And this is from a guy who uses a podcast to advertise businesses. But I'm going to tell you
a pamphlet all I want, but if you've laid your eyes on it, you know firsthand. If you've seen me there taking care of your property, if you've seen me there doing a better job than anyone you could have possibly got, then you know firsthand you're going to be wanting to tell everybody about it.
Yes.
Anybody, there's a lot of crappy companies out there that spend billions of dollars on advertisements.
Yes, there are. And I'm not going to name them, but there are. But I'll tell you.
Dressed up in turkey suits.
That's right. Yeah, what is that? Right. So I'm gonna tell you, though, you nailed it. And I wish people would realize how important that referral aspect is. Because when you're saying, Capital City Coatings did a great job on my house, I would love for you to consider allowing them to paint your house. What that person's hearing is, if it's good enough for my friend, it's good enough for me.
Right.
So don't hesitate to refer good work.
And then there's some of these people, their friends or their family, how picky they are. Like, well, if you made them happy, my God, he's got to do a good job on me.
That's exactly right. And always be willing to, for example, if you use Capital City Coatings and they do great work for you, go on Facebook and leave them a review. Mm-hmm. Those are huge.
Google,
reviews are
next
huge.
door. We have so many people out there already doing that, and that's a great feeling to see. That after you built your company up, I'll see people posting, "Hey, I need a painter to handle this, that, and other," and to see like 40 or 50.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's the rat race.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that's free advertisement.
You talk about word of mouth. I had a customer that went to look at what seemed to be a small project. It was a door situation, and after looking at it, giving her a price, and she said, I need to tell you that it's not that I really need my door done, but I heard you were a pastor and my husband needs counseling. He won't go to church, but I'll bring you here.
Yeah. I think everybody says their husband needs counseling.
Yeah, it wasn't my wife, was it?
And vice versa, right?
That's funny. Right. So let's talk networking real fast. Networking, an important part of any business. I don't care what you're doing for a living. But you're part of a BNI. So let's shout out your BNI, first of all, by referral. is the name of your chapter.
Correct.
So I'm a big believer in B&I. I've been involved in B&I for 7 years now. I'm a big believer in networking in general. I'm active in the Chamber of Commerce here in Livingston Parish.
We have a very fantastic core group of guys. Thomas Kissinger from Tommy's Windows, Doors, and Siding. Jacob Sibley from Plumbing MD. I've known all these guys years before I even joined this group.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I had no idea all these guys were in the same group. They kept trying to get me to join each individually for years. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll join it.
Yeah.
I jumped in there's like everybody I know in there.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
There's a hidden message in that too, in that, again, for those who don't know, a B&I group will meet with people from different genres and occupations. And in our case, some 50-odd people, every Wednesday morning, we're going to meet together. And if you then have got a referral from someone in that group, and you've done work for them or a friend, and it wasn't a good job or there were problems on it, you don't want to show back up every Wednesday and face these same people.
No.
So the very fact that we get referrals from other contractors, from real estate people, and they have seen our work and yet still want to refer us, that in and alone is a testimony to the quality of what we offer.
100%. And B&I vets you. It's it's not like you pay your money and you're in.
Right.
You go through a process.
Right. Yeah.
You have to interview with the leadership in that particular B&I, and I've seen people not be able to join a B&I because they just weren't a good fit for whatever reason. So
B&I,
this is a vetted company.
Better communities as well.
Oh yeah.
It helps weed out the the fly-by-nights and all kinds of other things. And
it really does.
Have a referral list. And not just one. There's plenty of B&I groups. They're all good. They all serve their purpose. We're not saying ours is better than anybody else's. We're just happy we're in.
Go business, baby.
So
I'll have to have y'all of mine though, and y'all can check out mine, and I'll come to y'all. You can swap a little.
Networking's networking. We're not a street gang. We're not gonna have B&I fights in the parking lot.
Be like Anchorman,
newscaster.
Channel 9. What are you doing here? They got the Spanish channel over here. Oh, that was great.
The History Channel. The old guy show with swords. Yeah.
That's so funny. So I hope one thing you got out of this, and believe it or not, an hour. We've been going an hour, folks, already. I know it flies by. We'll have to do this every now and then and come back because
it's always good to keep customers updated on current trends.
Yes.
On, new products they may not be,
Yes.
Well. So, we'd love to come back on, man, in the future. Do this again. It's been fun.
And just real fast on that with products, another thing that I really want to impress is if you took your years combined, you got a good bit of years in the paint industry.
Total company wise, we have over 150 years of experience.
Yes.
In Capital City Coatings.
Now, why is that important, folks? I'm going to tell you why. Because paint is not just paint.
Right.
Every type of paint has a specific application, and every setting is different. We had a conversation before this that I went into a friend of mine's business the other day, and they had flat on the walls, and they had hangers and things like that were banging against these walls. It was chipping a fresh paint job. And the problem was they didn't use the right finish for that particular setting. That particular customer should have been recommended at least an eggshell, if not a satin, with the amount of abuse those walls get. They got a flat, and now they're going to have to repaint the whole thing on the inside, I think.
And just a little bit of,
in short order.
What's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bit of effort, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
That would have prevented all that. So that's wasted that customer's money.
Extra effort.
Customer's time. That's wasted that contractor's time and money. I'm sure he's got to go back and fix it out of his own pocket.
Absolutely.
Planning is everything.
Planning is everything.
Execution without a proper plan. We just don't go to war in countries with they drop troops out of the sky. Here you go. The bad guys. No, it's extensive planning.
That's right.
And recommending.
Everything starts in the front office. Teams don't win the Super Bowl or the national championship.
No, and that's the point I'm getting at with this long lineage of experience is you're going to know the right products to put in the right places.
And it's
so important. Take it from a sales rep
as well. We communicate with painters in other states, other countries, on different groups. Facebook pages.
And that's where a lot of times it goes wrong is when the client says, well, I want this, this, and this. And that may not be what they need. It may cost more than what they should. Yeah. I've had that happen with Old Base. Well, I was told it was Old Base. I want to put Old Base back. Well, they've got acrylics now that are just as good and can be cleaned. Right. And the cost for doing with Old Base is going to be so much higher. Yeah, I can give you that and I can make more money. But I'd rather tell you what you can use that'll be just as good, if not better, and cost you less.
Because Old Base is eventually going to go obsolete. It's already illegal on the West Coast. You can't buy it in California.
And it changes
Oregon,
color.
Washington, and it yellows over time. Yeah, it's bad for your health, technically.
Yeah.
There's so many
there are acrylics now that have far surpassed oil and durability.
Painting is
believe it or
constantly
not.
changing. Painting technology is constantly changing. Just like, there's new products out now that just came out recently. Every company, whether it's Sherwin-Williams, Farrell Calhoun, Benjamin Moore, Pratt & Lambert, you name it, they're constantly, tweaking their product.
100%. They have water-based alkyds now that they use what they call cross-link resin, and it's alkyd resin, which is oil-based resin, in a water-based paint that's a single component that way outperforms Old Base. So you don't get the yellowing, the smell.
Don't get
you
the
ain't got to use thinner with it.
Every time you clean out a paint spray, I told him the other day, I was like, it costs me $100 every time I clean that spray.
That's right.
Because you got to run like 2 different layers of thinner through it until it's clear,
Then where it has
and it's just nasty, messy to work with.
You can't really
spill it, you're in a bind.
Without harming the environment. And we take, that's another thing, we take every precaution to protect the environment. We don't wash out chemicals in your yard and leave paint all over the place, and
good
some
point.
of these guys cleaning out
they got
the half the people's backyards covered in paint, and I'm like, it's insane.
Yeah, it really is. God, we could go forever. Yes, sir.
No, I'm just saying, I'm thinking of people who never intended their bushes to be frosted.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You got snow on your bushes in July. We're going to go ahead and decorate for Christmas already. Or even, on the, what about the windows? The trim of the windows. So now they make a product that we used to sell one called Jasco, which was a film that you would paint. Yeah, liquid masking. Great product. You cut around it. It's a if it gets on the wood, that's okay. It's a primer.
Factory finish.
Yeah. Great product.
We use that a lot, but every now and then I still cut it in the old-fashioned way.
Well, he's so good.
Just to keep my skill set.
That's right.
100. You can't never get lackadaisical about this.
No, you can't.
You got to stay on your toes.
That's right. You got to keep training every day.
That's a good point. Either way, whether you have the skills, rarely as some do, but George does, or you use a product like that. Think about when the customer's finished, we're finished, and the customer looks at the job, and we cut it, but it wasn't cut that well. What are they going to say?
Yeah.
Most of the time, they're just going to swallow hard and say, we'll pay them, but I'm not really that.
Yeah, I'm not recommending them.
It is not calling them back. The paint is on there. It's not like all over the glass, but we don't want to put you in that situation. You're going to love it. It's going to look like a factory finish.
Our goal is to give you a pleasurable experience.
Very good.
To have your work done, and hopefully before the time frame that we even gave you, a picture perfect job, or some things you can't control, but then best in our ability that we can.
Yeah.
I want you to be ecstatic about it. Everything falls on the painter here, and that as a when the plumbers leave, the electricians leave.
It's always painter's
as long
fault.
as the lights are turning on, they're not really going to care too much about the electrician. But they are going to praise the painter if he does a great job and it walks away, because everything is aesthetical and boom right in that person's face.
Love it.
You're going to see it. You're going to see every flaw is going to show as well.
That's right. It's one way or the other.
Right.
Somebody's going to hear about it.
That's what I tell these young guys, when I'm training them. I'm like, hey, look, if the homeowner can see this, I can see it. Or if I can see it, the homeowner's going to see it, rather.
That's right.
And you just can't emphasize enough about taking pride in your craft.
Yes.
And, taking pride in a relationship with the homeowner. Like I said before, this is a person's home. Love is going to be shared in these rooms. Memories are going to be made in these rooms. Keep that in mind when you're, applying paint to walls.
Yes. Very good. So what we're going to do, we're going to link all their information into the description of this video, or if you listen to the audio version, just scroll down the description, and we're going to link their Facebook page, and we're going to link their contact information so you can hurry up and give them a call. Tell them that you heard the podcast. We always love that when you mention that you heard it from us. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you two guys for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully we can do this again some other day. And I had a ball. Love to talk about paint. And to all my listeners out there, thank you. Love all of you. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you tuning in and listening. I want to thank my sponsors. Couldn't do any of this without all of you. You make it affordable for all these businesses that come on the show, and so we all appreciate that. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman reminding you, love your community, support local business just like Capital City Coatings, and keep leading. Thank you very much.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details. With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.